Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Thursday night live stream. We are on, one second, episode 26, and we are going to be sculpting the Venom, Tom Hardy Venom concept tonight. We're going to continue on with that, as well as take chats and questions from you guys. It's going to be a chilled live stream. Before we go any further, I just want to share the membership video, so I'll be back in 1 minute. So, you want to join my membership?
Gotcha. Sign up.
By joining, you won't only unlock members-only content, you'll also be supporting my channel and the growth of the community. Are you ready to do your part?
I'm doing my part.
For as little as a price of coffee a month,
God damn, Jimmy. This some serious gourmet
you'll be able to access all past live streams and get exclusive members-only content.
Yeah, boy.
That's less than 49p a video.
Shut up and take my money.
So if you're ready, join now and become part of this 3D journey.
Where we're going, we don't need roads.
All right, so you saw there, you can become a member and you can get all the past live streams and the dragon tutorial, which we finished this Monday, actually, we finished it. So you can unlock that and watch 28 videos of live stream tutorials for the dragon tutorial. Next week, we're starting a new tutorial phase, and I'm going to take it back to basics. So what does that mean? We're going to study the human anatomy, and I'm going to show you techniques on how I, as a beginner, would attempt to work on human anatomy. The first live stream, we're just going to discuss the sort of breakdown of the course, or live streams to precede it. And then the next live stream will actually start to sculpt the human anatomy. And we'll go through it step by step. And hopefully this is going to help a lot of people who are still beginners in art in ZBrush and want to learn how to sculpt and kind of want to learn the anatomy of a human as well. So hopefully that's going to help those people out. And if you want, you can also become a Patreon member. And they are currently working on a ZBrush tutorial on how to sculpt the Velociraptor as a beginner. So you can join up on tier 3 and learn how to sculpt this little guy here. I think that's about it, if I'm not mistaken. So we'll jump into ZBrush. 1 minute, let me just see everything's all right. Let me chuck some music on in the background. And the comments, I'm just going to stick them on as well so I can see them. Cool. All right. So what did we do? I can't even remember. I cannot even remember what we'd finished off with this guy last week. I think we merged it. We merged the head, I guess, to the body. We did the teeth. Yeah, we're kind of at that secondary stage. So we did all the block out work. So we're going to move in. I'm going to move into sculpting some more details. Not quite ready yet to do the Z remesh on this character. Still a little bit ways to go before we do that. But yeah, how's everybody been to this week? It's been quite a hot, humid week this week, and a little blighty. I don't know what it's like for everyone else, but yeah, it's not been fun. Oh, I forgot my banner, didn't I? 1 second. There we are. Some information for you at the bottom of the screen there. That'll just slide through throughout the live stream. Cool. All right, let's have a look. So we have our body selected. I'm going to come in with the damn standard. And just how many polygons? We've got 633, which is fine. Is this going to be all right? Yeah, it should be fine. So when it gets to this stage where I've merged every part of the body together, and let's say that we had separate arms and legs and the head, and we merged it all together, then what I'd do is I'd just go around and make sure that, because we use Dynamesh, it's going to kind of smooth things out. Even if you have the geometry here, under Dynamesh, the blur set to 0, it still kind of forces its way to sort of smooth out. So we're just want to stop that. Well, we actually just need to fix the geometry that we had created. So, and also when we Dynamesh, we added some more resolution to it, so it should have much more to work with. As I mentioned before, this in the previous Thursday sculpts, this one's a concept piece, so we're not going for game ready or anything like that. We're just making, well, I'm just making, don't know about you guys, but I'm just making it to be worthy of a conceptual piece that you could use for client, to show the client how it would look. Now, I'm sort of spending more than enough time than I would do on the body for what I actually want to do with this concept in a minute. You know, you'll see that in a few minutes. But it's also good to have a good strong underlining structure, because it'll look more realistic, and it also just looks better if you have a good strong character to start with. I think there's a muscle, if I'm not mistaken. Just moving down to this reference real quick. Yeah, you got this muscle here. I cannot remember the names for them, but I will have to learn them soon, I guess. So we have this long muscle here that just kind of wraps around the leg there, and we kind of missed it in this area. So what I'll do is I'll just use the clay buildup brush and attach that, and just bring that in as well. And that kind of wraps around and joins in around there. It's apparently the longest muscle in your body is this one that wraps around your legs. Okay. Just very lightly doing this, by the way, when I'm sculpting. I'm not really forcing the brush onto the model. I'm slightly touching it, basically, when I'm sculpting. Now that we have all the blockouts, it's this sort of at this point where the clay buildup brush works really well with very light touch, and you just build it up very slowly. Yeah. I'm just gonna identify these muscles here using a down standard so I can cut in. Cut into my model like that. We got a picture of the legs real quick. Got something here. So how's everybody been? Who's got something interesting that they've watched this week? I'm currently working on watching the Stranger Things on Netflix still. Sorry. I'll tell you, that show is a good show, but I'm starting to kind of see things that I never saw before, or notice things that I had never noticed before when watching that show. I don't know. I'm on season 3 at the moment, and it's interesting because at the first season I didn't really notice a whole lot of it, because I guess the first season it's one of those ones, well, for me anyway, it's one of those ones that you just have to get through so that you can get to the more interesting seasons, right? Kind of like in season 2, they had that one episode where 11, oh, by the way, spoiler alerts, 11 goes and finds her sister 8 in the city in, I think it was Illinois. and it's kind of like a wasted episode because it never really meant anything at the end, unless she comes back in season 5, to be fair. But yeah, so that's for me, that's kind of like the first season. It's nice. It's a nice season. It's very I got a lot of, what do you call it? I don't want to say iconic. I want to say something else. Member berries of the 70s, I guess you'd say. Like, you know, iconography and stuff like that. It's got good stuff. So but like I said, I didn't really pay too much attention to it because you kind of seen it 1,000 times and just want to get through it so you can get to the more updated versions of the show, or the latest versions. But in season 2, I really did notice a lot of things in season 2 because I was a little bit more into it, I guess. But the references in season 2 is just, there's too many to count, to be fair. And it's kind of like they just sort of I think it's a Duffer Brothers. They just started to take things from other films and just stuck them into their film. You know, it's a clever way of doing it because it's member berries, right? But I don't know, it's just kind of, you can't not see it anymore. So the first one that I noticed within season 2 was, there was a scene in one of the later episodes, well, say later, there was the scene where the bad guys, or the scientists, go into the tunnels to look for the hive mind because Will has told them where to go and find them. Again, sorry, this is spoilers. So they go in, and I started to hear the noise of the radar detection system that they were using, the scientists were using to keep a track of things in the background. And it was the same, nearly the exact same sound as the one from Aliens. You know, when the Marines go into the hive or into the alien nest to go and find the queen and kill it, or to find the survivors. And then there, you know, it was like beat for beat. I could literally, I think what I should do is I put a film together of sort of Stranger Things and then all the references that they use from other films. But there was a scene where all those commandos or scientists were walking through with their guns, and they had heart rate monitors on and the screen on showing where the what do you call it, the scientists were in the scene. And it's just pure aliens basically. And then the next one I saw, it was very hard because I couldn't quite remember where I saw it from. So it took me a while to actually figure out where it came from. But there's a scene where what is it? Well, Will's brother, the older guy, Jonathan, and Nancy, that's the one. They both go and see that crazy guy, the what do you call them? The conspiracy theorist people. And they ask him for the help, and he sort of helps them, and then they say they need to get on the road and go home because they're supposed to be going home and stuff. But the guy says, you know, you can stay. The conspiracy theorist says you can stay and stay the night. And so they stay the night, and there's 2 beds. There's one that's like a pull-out sofa, and then there's a normal bed. And there's this whole sort of storyline of Nancy and Jonathan sort of liking each other, but not actually telling each other. So there's a scene in there that's ripped directly from, what was it, Indiana Jones? The one, is it the Temple of Doom? The first one with the little icons, little statues that they have to find, those statues. And it's basically Indiana Jones is in one room, and the lady he's with, I can't remember her name, she's a blonde actress, is in the other room. And they're arguing in their heads about each other because they kind of like each other, but they didn't want to sort of say that they liked each other, and it just goes back and forth to each room. And then eventually they open the door and they both, well, actually Indiana Jones gets attacked, and then he goes to her room, and she opens the door, and it goes on from there. But in the Stranger Things, they do exactly the same thing. So they're both arguing like to themselves, and then they open the door and they're both standing there, and then they embrace each other. So that was like the second sort of thing that I noticed from Stranger Things season 2. We got one here from Tomorrow saying, yeah, I think I remember the William scream in Stranger Things at some point. When you've heard it once, you can't unhear it. Yeah. Kate Capshaw as Willie Scott. Not like that. I don't know who Kate Capshaw is. Hold on. I'm bad with names. Really bad with names. Oh, God. Oh, yeah. She's the one from Indiana Jones. Yeah, that's the one. Willie. That's the right. Yeah. So yeah, like I say, that was the second one. Then there was obviously you have in season 1, you've got the whole ET thing when the government agents are trying to catch the kids on their bicycles, and then 11 flips the van over. So that's kind of like ET, right? Of course, ET didn't actually do that, but the idea is there. And obviously, again, in season 3, just now, I'm just watching it. I think I'm on episode 2-3 now. You obviously have the Russian who plays the part of the Terminator, because he's a big, strong guy, and I can remember that very vividly from season 3, the Terminator guy. But I was just wondering, do you guys actually enjoy that sort of thing in Stranger Things, or do you think they're just milking those memories that we used to have of those iconic horror films? Because the whole what do you call it? A whole of season 4 was basically Nightmare on Elm Street with Vecna, right? So I think it was really well done. I like the way that they kind of change it so it's more. So it has some sort of originality to it, but if you really just watch it, they are just ripping off other films, really. Cool. It was Steven Spielberg's wife. Jesus, I didn't realize that. The lady from Indiana Jones, Steven Spielberg's wife. It's not what you know, it's who you know. Cool. So, yeah, like I say, with this character I'm doing at the moment, I'm just going along and emphasizing areas now, trying to block in more muscle tone and definition, and just having a little bit of fun with it. I'm not too serious about any of this as well, because it will just be a concept. If you take us further into a more finalized state, then I would actually spend a lot more time on it. Yeah. Because the reason I got onto the Strangest Things thing again was because I sort of very by mistake I saw a trailer for season 5 on YouTube as a recommendation. I thought, oh, that's interesting. Didn't really show much, but here's what it is. I think that it actually, if I remember correctly, I think the whole Vecna character was really good at the beginning, but then he kind of lost his sort of evilness near the end. He wasn't very scary, just became a human, a really sad human, really, I think, well, from what I can remember. Yeah. Yeah, I'm not too worried about the feet because we'll put them in the darkness anyway. So I'm not going to worry too much about that. If you have a question you'd like to ask, please feel free to ask it. I'll try and answer as best I can. Also, you know, like, share, subscribe, and all those other things that people normally say on YouTube that I always forget to. I'm not a proper YouTuber person, to be fair. It's not my full-time job. I don't want to go too hard surface in that area, really. Keep it fleshy, keep it organic. Yeah. Another thing I did this week, actually, I don't know if you guys know about it, but there's an app, or like, yeah, it's an app basically. It's called the Conqueror virtual walking challenges. I was thinking to myself, because I wear one of these stepometers sort of thing, and I use the gym quite regularly. But it's kind of I thought to myself, it's kind of pointless having knowledge of how many steps you've done every day without actually seeing any benefit from it. So I decided to join the Conqueror virtual challenge and do some of those challenges. I don't know if you guys know about that at all, or know somebody who knows about it. But it's quite interesting. So every day at the end of the day, I'll take the steps from my stepometer and I'll plug it into the app, and it'll push my little pin, depending on where I'm walking, will push the pin further to the sort of end goal, like the end point. So I'm doing, at the moment, I'm walking virtually, obviously. I'm walking London, Tokyo, Rome, and the English Channel, I believe it is. Yeah. And at the end of it, you get a nice little medal, and you can stick it on your wall and, you know, be proud that you've achieved something, I guess. It might not be everybody's cup of tea, but it's just something, you know, it's something else to do, I guess. It's also relatively cheap, so I don't have to worry about flying over to the Great Wall of China to walk the Great Wall of China and spend all that money, the money that I don't have, and do it that way. So yeah, I decided to just join the virtual challenges instead. Yeah, it's quite fun. Got to what I was saying. Have you tried ZBrush on the iPad? I've tried, but it's not intuitive yet. Sorry, you've answered this question before. Yeah, no, I haven't actually done that. I don't have a lot of spare time, because so this is how my normal week goes, right? I'll give you the rundown of how my normal week goes. By the way, I haven't tried the iPad yet because I don't think I have a strong enough iPad, and I've only got, what was it? The only iPad I have is this iPad mini, and this is, you know, you can't do much with an iPad mini, I don't think. I mean, if you probably could use ZBrush on the iPad mini, but you probably need a bigger screen. I would recommend. But yeah, my week is chock-a-block. So I am on a Monday. Obviously, I have work, and then I have the live streams on Monday. Then on Tuesday, which is my only day off, I tend to do the next time-lapse video. So I'll sculpt for about 3 hours in the afternoon after work. Oh, by the way, I work from 9 to 5, so 3 hours after work, add 3 hours after work on a Tuesday. Wednesday is another day off, but I'm seeing my family on that day. So I don't get a chance to work on the computer. Thursday, obviously, is this live stream. And Friday is another day off, but I'm also from doing stuff, but I'm, again, editing videos or making new videos. Saturday is supposed to be a day off, but I again don't get much time to have a day off, so I'll just sculpt the next time-lapse video, because it takes a long time to actually sculpt the time-lapse videos of the characters, and then I still have to edit the videos afterwards. So Sunday is also spent with family. It's the family day, so go and spend it with family. So I don't really have time, a lot of time, to learn something new. Yeah, that's my week really. It's quite daunting really, and it's not for everybody, but you know. Quite like this head actually. So we're sculpting the head on this character, but we're not going to spend a lot of time. Well, we'll spend enough time to detail it, obviously, properly. But the whole idea of this concept is to get it into Photoshop and put Tom Hardy's head on this character's body, like I did here. But this wasn't actually a full body; that was actually just down to the kneecap, and then I cut it off. So we're going to try to mimic. I should actually put his picture in here. Let me just try and find him online real quick. Keep forgetting to do this. My collection. Likes. So we're going to try and mimic this guy's sort of style with Constantine Sikeris. So this is the kind of thing we're going to do. We're going to take our character, render it, and then stick Tom Hardy's head on it instead. But we'll also have the Venom's head, so we can have a version with and without the head, basically. So yeah, we're trying to mimic this kind of style. I think he did this in Keyshot, so we might have to take it into Keyshot. I know that a lot of people don't have Keyshot because it's quite expensive. But for like film stuff, if you're trying to mimic the film stuff concepts, you need to invest in either a sort of real-time rendering or Keyshot or some other form of rendering apart from ZBrush. You can do everything in ZBrush, and I have done it before on a film, but it does take a lot longer to render, and it also doesn't look very realistic either. There's a lot more cleanup work done inside of Photoshop basically when you do it that way. So we won't be doing that. We'll be doing it with the Keyshot version instead. Pen squeaking on the icon tablet. Cool. Okay. I think I'm about ready now to take it to the next step. All right, let me just grab a quick drink. So once I'm happy with, let's say this is a good point to stop with your blockout sculpt, or a blockout it's not really a blockout, it's more of a stage after blockout. I just can't figure out what that would be, because normally after blockout then you get into the sculpting and then the detailing, but this is a sort of stage before sculpting. It's in between the blockout and the sculpting. This is sort of an in between that I like to use. But let's say that we're happy with that. I'm going to duplicate this model. Now you don't actually see a lot of this with the time-lapse videos, but in the background, because it's kind of boring to watch and it might crash ZBrush. So in the background, normally what I'll do is the ZRemesh stuff. So I'll just, first of all, I'll duplicate the model, and then I will add some ZRemesh guides just to help ZBrush out with the topology flow. And you can also use polygroups, but I think I've found an issue with polygroups that I haven't had since I started. Well, since I was a beginning artist, right? What I mean by that. So before I knew what I was doing in ZBrush, basically, and I was just throwing everything at it without really knowing the pipeline of how to do things. I would normally have broken topology, and it would drive me crazy because you'd spend like bloody hours, right, sculpting something, and then you'd retopo it, but then you'd find that there's strands of topology just flying everywhere, basically just a completely destroyed mesh. And that was because I didn't really know the sort of workflow of ZBrush and how to use ZBrush correctly, and the stages you go through to make sure that that doesn't happen. But I found myself falling into that trap again with this latest time-lapse video that I've created. I've created another creature, and I think I got stuck on it for like 2 to 3 hours. It would just crash, constantly crash, and I couldn't fix it. So I got it to a stage where I think it's going to be fine as a sort of high poly sculpt, but if you were to use it for an actual model, it would be useless. But it's just one of those things that I haven't done, or had, I haven't sort of come across since I was a beginning artist. It's one of those things that a lot of beginner artists actually have to go through. It's like a baptism of fire, really. Cool. So I have the ZRemesh guides everywhere, and just to show, it's all one poly mesh. And I'm going to come down to geometry, turn off Dynamesh, ZRemesh. I'm going to put down 10 for now. And I'm just going to ZRemesh this and cross my fingers that it doesn't crash. You can see why I don't normally do this. I thought it crashed there for a minute. It's just the colors down here is turned to black, so we just hit V on the keyboard and it'll go back to white. There is a hole in here. It might look like a hole, but I think it's just geometry that's flipped. So just make sure that the geometry is clean enough that it will work. In fact, I'm very much impressed with ZBrush's ability to ZRemesh. I think 2025 probably has even better techniques or sort of automatic ZRemeshing than I think it's just 2022. But even for 2022, the topology really does hold up very nicely. And I mean, the quadding of it. I mean, we didn't even polygroup. If we polygroup this, then wherever a polygroup is on a character, the flow will then continue down better. It'll try to polygroup it, edge flow it better with polygroups turned on. But I think it's done quite a good job without polygroups, to be fair. And this is the sort of thing that I would do in the background, and then I would just project all that detail from the high poly to the low poly. So making sure that the low poly is underneath the high poly. And we're going to go up in stages because I don't like to go to subdivide and then project, because what happens when you subdivide is the model shrinks because it's subdividing, so it shrinks on itself. So you don't really want to subdivide to level 8 because the projections wouldn't hold. Let me show you what I mean by that. Let's grab what would be the best thing? Cube? Yeah, this will do. Let's just make this a 3D object. So we have a cube here, right? And I'm just going to duplicate this. Let's say that the top one is our high poly mesh, and the bottom one's going to be our low poly mesh. I'm just going to hit Control W to change the poly group so it's not the same color. There we are. If I was to subdivide this model now, so hit Control D a few times, you can see how it smooths out the borders, right? And if I turned on the high poly model and I come down to project at this high poly or high subdivision level, and then I hit project, you're going to see what happens. So if I now solo this, you can see how the cube, it's not a cube really, it's got these rounded points because we subdivided and it smoothed out these edges, right? You can mess around with the distance on here, and that might help with the projection, but it's still not going to be crisp, 100% crisp. The best way I find to do this is to go up in stages. So at stage 1 or subdivision level 1, I'll hit the project. Let me just put this back to 0.02. I will hit project and it'll project it. Then I'll hit Control D and then project again. Did that go in there? Ah, come on. Yeah. I'm still doing the same thing. That's embarrassing. Yeah, I think it's because it's it's because it's a cube. It's not a sort of rounded model. But anyway, the idea is there, right? So if you subdivide it too many times and you don't have a distance high enough, I guess, it won't project properly. So if we come back to our Venom model, sorry, if I was to subdivide this a couple of times and then project, there might be some cleanup issues needed on the model because it's trying to project a high poly model onto a high poly model instead of taking it up in stages. So I'm not going to do that with this one. I'm going to go back to 1 and I'm going to hit, actually I'm going to undo this real quick. There we are. Project. It's going to ask me if you want the color in there. It's just going to say no. And hit Control D, project. Remember the distance is 0.02, so that's 0.02 is the distance between the green, which is our projecting, our low poly model, to the high poly model surface, which is the gray. So if it was 0.5, it would sort of, or even 1, it would be pulling from over here. But if it's too high the distance, say that the distance is about, it cuts the middle line here, this part of the leg will try to project onto this part of the leg, and then you'll have these stranding effects as the faces try to pull together because the distance is so high. So that's why the distance needs to be quite low, and that's why we go up in stages, so that we don't get any of that weird topology from the baking the high poly to low poly. So I hit Control D again, project. Oh, please don't crash. There we are. Hit Control D and project all. You can see why I don't do this live or in my time-lapse videos, because it takes forever. There we are. Okay, so we're at 1.5 million. Let's just have a look at it. Let's solo it and see how it looks. I mean, it's not too bad. You can see if we come close to this area here, it's normally areas where they're not like touching, areas that are touching too close to each other will be affected by the projecting. So we just want to show that everything is smooth and nothing is sort of being destroyed. I'm going to hit that Control D once more, so we get about 6 million, and I'm going to project, and I'm going to leave it at about there. Chai asks, how often does ZBrush crash for you when you get to the late stage of sculpting? Now ZBrush used to crash a lot back in the day. 2020 is when it started to, I find it started to be more stable. And then obviously 2022, there's not that many crashes, but there are some significant crashes if things aren't worked on in a particular way. Like there's a pipeline inside of ZBrush, like an underlining sort of what do you call it, rule that you have to obey by so that it doesn't crash or it doesn't sort of break down, basically. And if you just do things too stupidly, or not stupidly, but too aggressively with ZBrush, it will crash. But if you keep it nice and calm when you're sculpting and when you're using ZBrush, it'll actually be all right, as long as you just sort of obey the undying rules or the unknowable rules of ZBrush. It's difficult to explain, but basically all you need to do is make sure that you have enough RAM, you have enough memory. If you feel like it's sluggish, then the best thing to do is to, still projecting, is to delete all your quick saves, because ZBrush saves periodically to make sure that you don't lose anything. And that's a good thing about ZBrush. If you do crash, you will always have a save, sort of like a save point, or an automatic save point. Doesn't always work, because if it's midway through saving and it crashes, it could completely corrupt the file. But you can come up to the preferences here, and underneath quick save, you got this little button here that says delete quick save files. Those quick save files are all found underneath your light box over here, and you can go to a quick save file and see all of them. You'll probably see there's hundreds of in there, but it's not too bad. ZBrush, I think Maya crashes way more for me than ZBrush has, but it's only when you do something really stupid inside of ZBrush that ZBrush will like just have a temper tantrum and just say no, you can't do that. So yep, even tomorrow says, yeah, I haven't had a crash in a while, but then my sculpts have been better managed as I've learned more. Yeah, I think what I should do is make like a tutorial on how not to work in ZBrush and how to make sure that it never crashes, something like that. How much RAM do you recommend having? I have 32 gigabytes of RAM, and because I also do video editing and I have other things that I do, I find it's not enough for me. But I have a mini computer, like a mini tower, which I think is probably one of the worst things I've done with my money, is buy a mini tower. I should actually have a full-on workstation tower, and I think I'm gonna buy one day. But I would, if I was to upgrade, I would definitely upgrade to 64 RAM or even higher, like 96 RAM, just so you future-proof yourself, basically. I'm starting to notice my computer chugging a little bit when using ZBrush. It might be time to upgrade. Yeah, depends on your platform that you're working with. I have an Alienware laptop that's over there in the background, and that one still works really well. I did some stupid things. I saved a lot of documents, like what do you call them? What are they called? Then they're just temp files. That's the one. I saved a lot of temp files and programs, startup programs and auto saves onto my C drive, and I didn't realize, and now my C drive is completely full and I can't open anything because it just crashes all the time. So I need to do a factory reset on that and get and start over again. But yeah, ZBrush is pretty good at labor intensive things. I mean, I think that dragon tutorial that we created, I think the total polygon count or active polygons on that model was about 55 million. So that's not too bad. It's not too bad at holding a lot of polygons in the scene. If I was to move that into Maya, I think I'd just destroy my machine if I did that. But ZBrush is normally very good at holding that amount of information. Cool. So once we have our model projected, so you can see all this is now projected to the same sort of detail as we had in our decimated version. I normally just turn it off, and then I will delete it once I save this and I move on to the next stage. I'll just delete it out of here anyway because it's no longer really needed. But I'm going to leave it there for now, so we can sort of come back to it if we want to. And yeah, so we're kind of at that stage now where we can't go back. We can Dynamesh, but then we're going to lose all the detail that comes afterwards. So this is this is kind of the part where you should be about 95% happy with how the decimated version, or the sort of rough sculpt version, which is this one, it looks, right? So you got all your forms, you got all your shapes, you got the muscles where you want them, the sort of head this at the right size. Everything looks reasonably good. You got a little bit of detail just to help you in later on to fill out those forms of your character. So once you have that and you're happy, you have your topology, and now you can't really decimate. You could if you wanted to, or sorry, not decimate, Dynamesh. But you could if you wanted to, but you'd lose a lot of the work that you would do moving forward now. So that's how I tend to see it. You could do it other ways, but this is the sort of my method of working, is to get all that hard graph areas done using Dynamesh, and then you sort of just go into town with the detailing stage afterwards. Now I am smoothing out the model, the sort of top layer of the model a little bit, because there's some of that projection coming through that we had from the Dynamesh. I don't really want that. It does give a little bit of texture to your character, and I shouldn't really worry too much about it with this Venom character, because we're going to use a brush that I've recently found works really nicely, and I just want to test it out and see how it works on this character. Tomorrow says, I have a decent PC for sculpting in 3D. I got it 5 years ago and I'm still paying for it every month. The outgoings are a nightmare. Oof. Yeah, I bet. That's the only thing I envy for people who do like work on a laptop, like a normal laptop, is that they never have to worry. Well, a lot of people can work from wherever they want to work, right? Some people, they travel the world and work through a small laptop because they don't have to worry about setting up all this gear in order to sculpt, and I kind of envy them for that, to be fair. Chai says Maya is allergic to high poly count. Yes, it is. I still managed to get about 4 million to 5 million polygons of my characters once I decimated it, so I can get a good render out of it. But it chugs. It really chugs. It hates high poly count. Cool. All right. So, on side of that, there's a brush in here that I've been testing a little bit, and I didn't realize it was in here, to be fair. It's one of those things I just sort of found on my sort of travels around the ZBrush brush library. Let me see if I can find it now. It says, I think it's fractured or flakes. Oh, come on. Was it thick skin? Yeah, thick skin clay. Sorry, thick skin clay. Now this brush is really good for adding detail to the surface, right? I normally turn the alpha. I change the alpha of it because it's a bit too hard edged. When you use a softer edge, it sort of works a little bit better. Try and find a good brush to use. Okay, try this one. Yeah, that's the one. So alpha number 6 is probably the best. It gives a nice displacement on the skin of the creature, and if we have a look, I mean, you could do this with alphas, right? You could just plaster this character with a bunch of alphas, but I wanted to try and use this brush instead because it's kind of interesting the way it works. So what I want to do is I want to get this sort of uneven texture along the skin, as you can see here. This is one I did like years ago, this sort of Venom, and he's sort of got this liquidy type skin all over him, and I kind of want to mimic that on this character we have here. So, but I wanted to try using a brush from ZBrush for this. I'll just squeeze this down a bit. That music's getting on my nerves. So with this brush, I found that it works best if you have thick skin turned on in the palette over here. So turn that on. So the higher the thick skin, the more it affects the model basically. So if it was at 0.2, I believe. Or was it 20? Sorry. So setting it at 20, it will stop. The thickness of the sculpt will stop at 20 points above your character's what do you call it, skin, or the model. So if you put this down to 5, you can see it's not going to go higher than 5. I'm going to say 5 centimeters. Let's say 5 centimeters. It's not going to go higher than 5 centimeters. If I put this back to 20, you can see it now goes a lot higher than it did before. So what we can do is split this down to about 10. You Control Z a few times just to undo all we've done. Right. Now, this brush is going to mess up the surface of your character. But if you use it in a sort of, I don't know, it's difficult to explain. If you use it in a particular way, you can just about get an interesting looking surface to your character, right? I think what we'll do actually is we'll store a morph target for this so that we have something to come back to if we wanted to rub away some of the detail that we're going to add. And then I'm going to also put all of this onto a layer, the sculpting that we're about to do onto a layer, because that also gives us even more control over it. We can turn the slider down to have more of an effect or less of an effect. When it comes to the sort of when we're finished with it. Now, this is not a brush to rush with either. This is a brush that you take your time with, and you think about how you want it to look on your character. So I'm not just going to come in here and start doing really crazy scribbles all over the character like this. I'm actually going to come in and I'm going to very lightly, also using the Alt button to change from Z add to Z sub, to push it in, pull it out. And what I'm trying to do with a very small brush, or small to medium sized brushes, moving in between small and medium. When I hit spacebar, you'll see this little window pop up, and I'm just making this brush slightly bigger, slightly smaller. And I'm just going to come along here and add this detail along the character. Now, it's totally up to you how you like it to look, but it gives that nice clay-like, well, they say it's a clay-like feature to the character, but it gives that nice bumpiness to it. And if you go even smaller with the brush, then you can get even more lines in, detailed lines in. So what you want to do is build up the big forms first with a big brush or medium-sized brush, so you can get the flow looking right. And then go back in with a smaller brush to detail it further. And if you look at how we're doing this, we're kind of going along the muscle now. So for the block out, we kind of went across the muscle, right? Now we're adding this detail. We're actually going to go along the muscle, as if it's the muscle strands of your character. Just make it look a bit more leaner, a bit more tensiled sort of look to the muscles that we have as well. Now, when I'm doing this, I'm kind of pushing down, then bringing the brush away from the, so let's say that that's the Wacom surface, right? You can see that. What I'm doing is I'm bringing the brush to the surface, pulling, and then slightly hovering, and then going back down onto the mesh. So I'm kind of doing like a wavy feel, like a wavy movement along the Wacom tablet as I sculpt it, and also doing a little bit of jitter whilst I sculpt down the line, just to make it a little bit more uneven, a little bit more organic. And I'm pushing down a little bit in some areas, and I'm pulling away in others. And you can see how it starts to build up. I'm not actually using the correct texture, by the way, the material cap or matte cap. Normally when I get to this point in the sculpt, I will change this to a basic material, because it's just nicer to look at, and also it refreshes your eyes a little bit when you're sculpting. So just going along all the muscles, we're just going to introduce this sort of textured brush to our character. Now you can go a bit ham-fisted with this, because we have a morph target saved, so you can just go completely crazy if you wanted to, and then you can morph it back a little bit using the morph brush. But this is kind of the what do you call it? The slog of sculpting that you have to do now. You have to kind of go through this baptism of fire and just enjoy it, because it could take a long time, but yeah, the results are pretty good. So this is how I'm going to use the thickness brush, the clay thickness brush. What is it called? Thick skin brush, sorry. And you could use this brush, just this brush itself. You don't even have to use any alphas if you do it correctly. You could just get away with sculpting it using this brush. So I'm going to do a little bit of asymmetry on the side and in the middle here. So I'm just going to come down the spine in a zigzag type way, just so it gives that cool feeling down there, and then carve these in. Now, this might not be everybody's type of sculpt that they'd like to do, like this sort of way of sculpting. You might prefer just to use alphas to do this, but it's a new technique, and it's a great technique to use, or to sort of work on. Use as many brushes as you can inside ZBrush. Get to learn the brushes, get to know how they work. There's a fundamental types of brushes that you need, like the fundamentals in the standard brush and the damn standard brush and the move and stuff. But then there's brushes you'll see in ZBrush, but you'll never kind of use. So it's a good idea to just sort of experiment with some of these brushes and see how it comes out. It might not work. It might work really well. Oops. Of course, you don't have to go all over the character. You kind of want a little period, like little areas of breathing room when it comes to detailing. I find that a lot with a lot of first timers, and I did myself when I was first beginning, was to add too much detail all over the place. Like, we could actually leave this whole entire area here in the middle completely as it is, and just move on down the line and detail in specific areas, and then don't detail in other areas, just to make it a bit more interesting. It gives your eyes a rest from looking at your character, you know. So the back here, you can see it kind of went a bit messy at the back here. So what I can use is a morph brush, and I can just morph some of this back in along these bigger parts, like the bigger areas. So you can see now we have nice periods of rest in this area, and then we have the chaos that is the ink type effect along the sides here, and it just gives your eyes a little rest from the chaos that's going on there. And we can do along the back here the same thing. Just vary it up a bit. Like that. That looks pretty cool. So you can it kind of looks like it's stretching in that area, you see, in that area there. So you got the sort of fibers here, and then it stretches a lot the rest of it up there. It's really quite fun to do this, just sort of sculpting. I don't actually get a lot of time to enjoy well, I do enjoy it, but like sit down and enjoy sculpting, to be fair. So it's when I'm doing this sort of Thursday live streams, it's actually quite fun for me as well, because I don't really get that much time when I'm doing timeless videos to sit down and think very much. So it's kind of nice to just sit here and chill and sculpt at the same time. Okay. Let's go down the forearm. Make this really gnarly looking forearm. Now there's going to be areas on here that we could probably just use as a what do you call it, alpha map, just to save a little bit of time, and because it's a bit more specific in those areas. What I'm talking about is the hands, the face, and the feet and stuff like that. But you can see how, I mean, we could actually use this brush here a little bit just to break up the face a little. Just making sure that it's a small enough brush. Very, very, very quiet today, guys. I hope I'm not just talking to myself here. Well, I am actually just talking to myself because no one else is talking. But so we're going to kind of leave the top of the head. Oops, leave the top of the head a little bit flatter. We can use an alpha map in there later to bring out some of that detail. Oops, too much. If you guys have any questions you'd like to ask, please feel free to ask. This is it's not like the Monday tutorial. This is more of a chilled session. And for those who've already heard this, I'm sorry, I just have to say it periodically. For anyone that's new. Morph brush out again. Okay. Oh, so much skinning to do. I think I might have gone a bit overboard with the shoulder blades. Let me just morph those back a little bit. In some areas. Oh, come on. There you go. So that's like sort of the beauty of having a morph target to go back on. You can kind of just go between what you had and what you're sculpting. Ah, where's that brush? There it is. Yeah, I think this is becoming one of my favorite brushes to use. Just for the sheer fact that it just breaks that surface up really nicely. As we come down to the feet, we'll just add some here. And what's going to happen is when you put this in something like Keyshot to render, you're going to see all these little imperfections along the skin, and that's going to give it a really good reflection, like slimy reflection to it. So it's not just going to be a smooth map or smooth model. Okay. As I mentioned before, the feet are sort of the last thing that I'm worried about with this character. They're going to look very squishy, very liquidy, basically. I've never been a big fan of feet, to be well. I've not been a big fan of sculpting feet. Sorry, or legs. I think I much prefer hands, I guess, to feet, which is crazy because nobody likes sculpting hands. Or if you do, I think you're kind of a psychopath. Here we are. Okay. I think we got a good baseline for this. All right. So in not very long time, we've kind of added the first sort of layer of detail to our character using this one brush. And I could go on even further, you know, using this and really getting in there and detailing it to oblivion. But I think what I'll do is I'll just add some, do that using some alpha maps now, just to finish it off, and then using the dam standard just to highlight some of those muscle tones that we might have lost through adding alphas and this particular brush. So what I'll do first is sorry, stop recording that level or that layer, call this the skin layer, make a new layer, and we'll call this alpha maps. Normally I wouldn't do this. I just sort of quickly just add the maps and just very quickly do this sort of thing, but I'm just going to do it for this live stream so you guys can see how I normally would do it if it was for a project, especially if it's for like a project that's for a client, because a client might say, oh, you know, I want to change the look of the skin. Can we change the look of the skin? And if you haven't got a layer turned on, the skin stuff on there, then you're going to have to resculpt everything. Whereas if you have a layer turned on and you have it in the side, on the side there, you can always delete it or tone it down, and then add a new layer and change the skin's sort of texture. Cool. All right, let me just move this out of the way quick. I'm just going to import real quick, move that out of the way. I've got a couple of maps I've collected. Let me just try and find it real quick. So I use a lot of burnt skin for this type of character. I'll also import a few veins as well. There we are. Just turn that off there. Change this to the standard brush. Click and drag. Move that back there. And I've got burnt skin alpha here. And this is great for adding that sort of texture that we want on it. Just gonna invert it. So it's kind of interesting skin texture. Let me try the other one real quick. Yeah. Alright, that's the bad one. So this is more of a surface detail over the top. So we're gonna just add this in. No, let's try the other one. Here we are. Yeah, let's make it so this is asymmetrical in the middle here. So we'll just make this look like the skin is wrapping around him, this oily skin sort of thing, around the body there. And we'll turn symmetry back on. We'll just continue to add this going down the legs, or was it the other one's better? Yeah, the other one's a lot better. And you can also use this as a scatter, so spray it on instead. Just make sure that the lazy mouse, the lazy step is a little higher than 0.25. You can see it gives that much more finer detail along the surface, like a noise. We can do the head as well. Just trying to hit all those points that are looking a bit smooth, just giving it a bit of noise There we are. Sorry, change that. Let me just see what else I've got here. I've got this sort of line work, which is pretty good for strands. But I think what I'll do is I will flip the alpha, rotate it sideways, and come down the arm like that instead. Let me just check the stroke. Gonna bump up the stroke steps, so it's not just one after the other. It gives a bit of a pause before it goes down the arm. You can see we're kind of going against the leg here, or the muscles, sorry, the way the muscles would be. I should take those ones off there for now. There we are. Especially around the hands, give some of those. Again, I'm not looking for perfection here. I'm just looking for something that's going to look really good in the render. So if you see lines like this, these are kind of meant to represent wrinkles on the hands. They're not really, it's not really going to be something specific, like perfect. It's just there to represent in the concept. Okay. Yo says hi everyone. Hello. Nice to see you in this live stream. It's kind of weird because I think I mentioned this before, but we're actually fighting a battle. I'm fighting a battle, should I say, against ZBrush tonight, because they normally have their live streams on the same day, so it's kind of funny. I'm sort of hoping that people come to my one, and they're probably hoping that people go to their one. Let's add some of these dimples onto his head here, just to break up that surface yet again. What we're trying to do is keep it interesting as well for the lights that will hit this character when we render it. So if you have a bumpy surface, it's going to be more interesting looking than if it's just a bland surface. Oh, we haven't done, well, actually, we'll stop that one there. So I'll pause, I'll stop recording on that level, or the layer, add a new layer. I think I'm going to just use this one for the eyes. Now the eyes are going to be easy, because we're just going to morph that back into a smoother look, right? Because those are the only things that on this character that are going to be relatively smooth. We're going to look at this again. So just using the dam standard now, I'm just going to come in here and make a true divide between the eyes shapes and the body, or the head. So just kind of come through here. I'm going to sort of work my way around. That looks pretty good. Now, trim dynamic, I'm just going to trim it up a little bit. And another thing you could do is use a standard brush with nothing on, so just a default standard brush. And I'm going to turn the stroke back to 0.25, I believe it was. Oops. And then I'm going to just go around the outline of the eyes, pull out that skin around the eyes a bit, so there's a discernible or defining shape for those eyes, so you can kind of see it kind of looks like it's inset now. We can build up Oops, not that. Just build up these areas around the eyes here, so it's more of a smoother transition in there. I think that looks pretty good. Okay, I'm going to leave the eyes there. Stop the recording on that layer. Add a new layer. Name this Dam Standard. And in this one, we're just going to start to detail, because now we've laid all the alpha map detail down. We can now come back in with the dam standard and the standard brush. I mean, I call it dam standard, but it can also be a standard brush in there as well. And we could just sort of take our time and just emphasize some of these areas on the sculpt that we've just created. So it doesn't have to be everywhere either. It just has to be in certain areas just to bring back some of that detail. Just do around the mouth. Discerning, or a definite change between the gums and the lips there. Gonna use a move brush a little bit on the gums. It's just gonna work. Standard brush. I think the standard brush would be better. So I'm just gonna pull these gums through. Brown dam stand out again. There we are. Standard brush. I'm just going to thicken up this top lip a bit. There we are. Might look a little weird. A little bit of move brush. It's a bit of a complicated thing. It's a little bit fiddly. Get that good look going. I think, yeah, that's going to be all right. Let me just detail the bottom lip here as well. Clay brush. Is it dam standard? So tricky getting this mouth right. Such a massive part of the character is his mouth. Of course, people are going to probably, you know, disagree with me and say that it's not exactly how Venom's supposed to look, but I mean, Venom has been portrayed in so many different ways since his inception. It's just whatever. Should look all right. All right. I'm going to take a break from the face real quick. I think the face is about, I'd say it's about 95% done. You know, it's close. Come into the stomach area and just detail this up a little bit more. Using a damn standard to cut in some more lines. And then standard brush. Oops, let's just leave it to save for a minute. There we go. Just gonna pull those lines out a bit more. I'm trying not to destroy too much of the underlining geometry, like poking through like the actual abs, but it's not very easy. Have a massive amount of asymmetry in this area as well. And this will just make it look a bit more unique. Not so copied from one side to the other. Clay brush. There we go. Standard brush. That's pretty cool. That's going to come out really nicely when you render it. So you can kind of see there's still some kind of muscle tone going on underneath. If you really want to exaggerate the muscles a little bit more underneath, you can just pull it back in a bit. Oh, we still got thick skin turned on, so let me just turn thick skinned off. There we are. Now we can add a central line down the middle, and you can also add a few what would be abs as well. Brad says, details looking amazing so far. I like the way you used the thick skin clay brush. Yep. Yeah. It's one of those brushes I kind of fell into on my travels around the ZBrush library. And I thought, well, might as well try it out. Get used to it. It's really good for making this type of texture, or a lava creature type texture, you know. Just nice little break up the surface. These points, the tension points in this area, so that'll be around this point here. We could just use a dam standard to really bring those out on the model. So it looks like it's really tight in that muscle area there. And you have to do this around the whole model, by the way. What's the time? Got a few more minutes. So just coming around with the dam standard, we're trying to bring back some of those shapes that we had, like the actual muscular shapes that we had that we might have lost through sculpting. And just cleaning up everything. So the spine, I'll just come in here with the spine. I think, yeah, we're going to leave the spine as it is, really. I was going to put like an actual protruding spine, but I think that looked too monsterish. I mean, Venom is a monster, but it would just look it would be too much. It would be too much like a Abomination from the Hulk. You know, we added an actual spinal cord into it. Obrad says, I like to use the flakes brush with lazy mouse settings change for horns. Yeah, always funny to experiment with different brushes, settings, and alphas. It is if you've got time. Yes, if you have time and you're a student, especially if you're a student, I would definitely recommend just going into ZBrush and experimenting with all the different brushes they have, and sort of getting used to how they work. I mean, anybody could do it. It's just, it takes a bit of time to sit there and sort of learn all the brushes. You're gonna grab that standard brush. Let's do some funky lines in here, connecting lines. Like really go organic in these areas. Just using the normal standard brush to bring it out a bit more. Kind of like cobwebs or webbing on the back here. Like a mix mash of skin folds. Yeah. Yeah. Nice asymmetry in the middle there. And as it comes further down here, it'll go turn back on symmetry. Damn standard. Yeah. If you have any questions, guys, please feel free to ask. It's just a chilled session tonight as we try to sculpt more detail onto this character. Damn standard. Just cut that in there. Yeah. Just get the move brush out and just gonna bulk these legs out a little bit on the sides. Okay. It's a lot of work, this. Just using a standard brush to make it look more gooey. Albrad asks, are you doing creatures and characters in your full-time job too, or also different stuff like environments, etc.? Yeah, I do. In my full-time job, I do characters and creatures, and I also do a little bit of hard surface stuff. So kind of when you're in the industry, even if you're a character artist, depending on the size of the studio and who they have hired, you might be asked to help out with some environment work. I've recently just been doing quite a bit of weapon work for one of the video games we're creating, and yeah, I mean, when you're a 3D artist, you kind of have to do a lot of other things, like your best thing is to be a generalist, really, with a passion for character and creature, because if you're a generalist, then you're more likely to be able to do the tasks that need to be done and someone needs you to do, or your sort of lead or art director needs you to do. So it's always good to have a general idea on how to do things for everything in 3D, really. Also, if you can get some sort of concepting skills under your belt, like the basics of how to do concepts, then you can also move into the realm of being a concept artist, and helping out in that form. So yeah, long story short, I'm a character artist, character creature artist, but also a generalist, really, just general 3D stuff. We've missed that whole entire area in there, so let's just use an alpha for that. I'm not going to worry too much about the interior of that leg. Oh god, it's too high. Back face masking off. Oh yeah. Just smooth that out a little bit. I'm not too worried about the interior of that leg, because you won't really see it too much. Another important thing to do is to move around your model. Keep moving around your model when you're sculpting. You don't really want to be in one place too long. You don't really want to be stuck in one place too long, because you'll just get tunnel vision, basically. Obrad says, so true, I started as environment artist 7 years ago, and this knowledge still helps me a lot. Yep. I mean, the knowledge, I think it's weird, because I think that character artists probably make better environment artists than environment artists make character artists, because depending on if you're, it doesn't even depend on that, because environment artists, they work in a certain way, when it comes to creating things for, let's say, a video game. So the topology and the way they create things using procedural textures and whatnot, the UV layouts, the way they sculpt things and make things is totally different to characterized. In characterized, they tend to focus on a lot on the small details, but they're very good at, not very good, but they're also good at creating what you call it, environment art or environment models, but they just take a lot longer to do them because they're not in that sort of same mindset as a environment artist would be. Whereas an environment artist would do it really quickly, a character artist will probably spend a lot of time making a hat stand look perfect, you know, or an oil barrel would look perfect, whereas a character environment artist would know how to do it very quickly and get it done very quickly. But then if an environment artist tried to do the same thing as a character artist, they'd probably get very confused about how and why things need to be done in that order when it comes to character art. I am detailing this far too much for what I want to use it for. Just added a bit of asymmetry in the middle there. If you ever eyes get a bit tired of looking at the same textures, it's always a good idea to jump around in the texture sets here and have a look at what it could look like with other textures applied. It just gives it just makes it so you can give your eyes a rest and, you know, see it from a different angle or perspective. I actually quite like this one, the polyskin one. It's quite a nice finish to it. I don't, apart from the edge highlights, obviously. Another good one is this one, I think. Oh well, this one shows you the deep parts and the non-deep parts pretty well, but I don't know about that one or that one. So you can just jump around, just so you give your eyes some relax from the basic. Oh, the blend one's pretty good because it gives you that highlight. It's a bit distracting for me, but it's also a pretty good brush to use, material to use, sorry, in order to see the shadow and the highlight and sculpting. I just find that the highlight gets in the way a little bit sometimes when I'm sculpting it. And then I'll over sculpt it because I'm trying to combat that highlight, and then I'll just start pressing really hard on it, and I don't really want to do that. Yeah, can anybody hear me all right? I hope everyone can hear me all right. I kind of get to this point in the live streams when I'll start to focus on sculpting and I forget the microphone is there, and I'll start to sort of mumble. And I'm not sure if the microphone's picking it up or not. So I do apologize for that. Let's turn back to the basic one. Cool. I'm going to add some stretching in this area here. I think it's going to make it look cool. Yeah. I think it's going to catch the light nicely. I'm not going to worry too much about the hands or the feet. I think those have enough detail as they are, as it is at the moment. The face, because we're going to have a Tom Hardy face, which is the one that we're really going to focus on. I'm not going to worry too much about this one because it's actually going to look all right, like decent, like half decent. So not worry too much about that. It's at this point you can also still move the topology around a little bit more if you want to adjust it. As long as you don't push it too far, you can still adjust it a little bit. Right. Get that morph brush out real quick. And I think there's too much going on around here. So oh god, maybe not morph. I think morph is gonna push it too far. Unless I use a smooth alpha. Nah, I'm gonna leave it as it was. Just gonna fix it instead. Come on, save. There we are. Down standard out and just down standard that. Again, not too worried about this part. Probably never see the back of it, to be fair, unless you had a turntable, which I probably will have, so you probably will see it, but I'm not going to worry too much about that. And lastly, I just want to, before we end the stream, just going to add some already made veins to our character. So just going to move this reference over again. And under the layers, I'm going to stop recording on that layer. I'm going to add a new layer. I'm going to name this veins or veins. I don't know, can't spell. And I'm just going to use this as an alpha map to place some veins down. So we'll add one there. If you want, you can actually make them asymmetrical because it'll be a lot nicer to have it asymmetrical for the veins. So that's not the same side. Turn off back face masking. Okay. Now I'm not going to go crazy with the veins on our character. I think maybe just one or two will work fine. Oh, that's too much. Here we are. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Not going to worry about the back. I think that'll be fine. And let's stop the recording on that and bump this down to 0.5. Maybe 0.7 is better. I just want about to see it. I don't really want it to be overly in your face, basically. Cool. All right, cool. I think I'm going to stop it there, guys, for the live stream. We've done quite a lot to this character tonight. We've actually gotten past the point that I wanted to get to, so we're a bit of ahead in schedule on this one. So the next stage, which will be next Thursday, we're going to put some color on him. Not a lot of color, just enough color. Then we'll pose him, and then we'll put it into Keyshot, because I don't think it's going to take that long to color, pose, and throw into Keyshot and do the Keyshot stuff as well. Keyshot is quite a laborious task though, but it shouldn't be too long. The only thing that's going to take a while to do is the ambient occlusion map render, and maybe what I'll do is I'll show you how I set it up and then render it, but then leave it to to render whilst I end the stream at that point, because I think the Photoshop section should be its own live stream, so that we can really sit down and sort of composite Tom Hardy's face on there, and also composite the image as well. So next week we will be doing a lot of work to get this to the Photoshop stage. But that's going to be it for this live stream. What I'll do is I'm going to leave this live stream up like I did before. I'm going to leave it up until Sunday afternoon, Monday morning, so that other people who maybe haven't had a chance yet to see this live stream can have a chance to see it. But then it will go to the members only afterwards, and then from there you can watch all of them and follow along, or just listen to the live stream whilst you do your own sculpts. Next week as well, Monday, we're going to start on a brand new tutorial, because we've done the Dragonheart tutorial now. So next week, Monday, we're going to be working on the first part of the anatomy. So we're going to sit down. I'm going to sit down and talk you through how it's going to be planned, and we're going to plan it out for the next Monday, which will then start actually sculpting. There's a lot to do with anatomy, and I want to get as much as I can into it, because a lot of people sort of struggle with anatomy. Even I struggle with anatomy as well. I don't always get it right. So it'd be nice to do that with you guys, like learn as we go along about anatomy. But yeah, so before I leave tonight, a lot of people already have left. Let me just jump in here real quick. I'm going to hide that banner. I'm going to turn off the comments right here. Cool. Oh, I haven't turned the comments off. I just hid the comment section. All right. So first of all, I want to just say thank you to all of my YouTube members. We're actually growing quite a bit now. And it's always great to have you guys sort of as members. I hope I'm giving you enough content. I hope it's good content. But I just want to say thank you to my members. So here we go with the names again. So we got Umut Khan Bolakabasi. Oh god, okay. I'm going to say the first names. Nira J, EFPV Section Civil, Kushek Das, Sunel Verma, Alicia Marzola, Black Socrates, Tobias, Pivot, and then we have a brand new person from Korea, but I can't read Korean, so I'm just going to call you the Korean dude or the Korean guy. And that's my new members. And I got the first months or 1 monthers. We have Ricardo, MHN artist, a Japanese or Asian person or dude, talent, Dylan Dixon, Emac_3D. And with my 2 monthers, we have Dave Newhouse, Mateo Selek, Alpinative 35, Ganesh, Joel, Luis Frateus, Maria Carvalho, Ivan Savoyne, Nicholas Anastasio, I hope that's right, Tia Pong, another Asian dude. Thank you very much, you Asian dudes. Wesley, Abishk, Paswan, Jace Burgoyne, VS SWAT, and Shira Phoenix. And for my brand new 6-monther, Joseph Bukowski, thank you very much for being a member for 6 months. You are the first one to be the 6-month member. So I just want to say very, very warm thank you for sticking around for so long. To my Patreons, I have Tier 1, Alan CE, Tier 2, Alberto, Best in Shot, oh my god, I can't speak. Danilo, Gradual Warden, Jason, Joseph Pakowski, King Amp, Chrono, Lloyd David, Lost in Limbo, Mackie 903, Rafael Diaz, Shabasio, Fabricio, Malepo, Thassa, Tom Uro, Salvador, and I think that's an Arab person or an Arab name. I can't be sure because I don't quite know how that's spelt, but thank you for being a member. In tier 3 we got Aaron Todman, Anika Gadesh, Ecole Francois Dal Di Pelotush, must be French. I'm thinking it's French. Virtual, Erwin Vandermine, Gabriel Geese, Holfi 76, Roger, Tyler Kraus, Jeremy Mock, and Winwu Zeng. My God. Oh God, yeah, that's me and my my very bad English or reading skills. Again, thank you very much, guys. I hope you've enjoyed this live stream. We are close to finishing this Venom tutorial or Venom live stream. I hope it's been some help to you guys, and have a great weekend, and I'll see you all on Monday for a brand new project. I'm going to spend this weekend planning it, so that's fun for me. But yeah, thank you very much for staying in tonight and watching, and I will see you all on Monday. Take care. Thanks for watching. If you're interested in more exclusive content and want to support my work further, then please check out my Patreon page at MLW_creative for more. Also, view past live streams you might have missed in Tier 3 tutorial support, where I will be archiving future streams moving forward. If you are interested in other full-length tutorials, brushes, and models, then check out my online stores for more useful content. I would also like to thank all my subscribers and patrons for supporting me for this long. Again, thanks for watching and stay safe.